Welcome back, everybody, to the Pillars of Success with Dr. Paul David White. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. It's a great day and I'm happy to be here.
So, diving into the last few weeks, we've gotten a lot of amazing insight on some different things that you have followed on your journey throughout the process of obtaining your doctorate, as well as just some of the struggles you have faced and the different adversities you've overcome. Something we want to talk about a lot today would be diet and the effects it has on the human body and the mind. So, diving into that, first and foremost, I want to ask you, what is your ideal vision of diet in general and how it affects the human mind and body?
Yeah, so I think that when we talk about diet and nutrition, I think that this is one of the fundamental pillars of success. I think a person that's truly successful, someone that's at least on that journey to be successful, is going to be mindful of their diet. They're going to be aware of their diet, and they're going to be careful about what they put into their bodies. So I think that there is a direct correlation between what we eat, whether it be poison or medicine, as food can be poison or medicine, and the outcomes, the potential outcomes. So I think that's something that we need to be very cognizant of.
So breaking down diet, and obviously, what's very interesting about the idea of diet is you have many medical and health professionals that all have this vision that they claim to be the perfect diet for the human. You got doctors saying the keto diet is amazing because it's high in fat, low carb, or adversely, you have people that are saying it's better to be on a pescatarian diet, or people that swear by the vegan diet and how dairy is bad for you and meat is bad for you. A lot of these people that are saying these things are all people that are considered professionals who maybe have doctorates, and they are very, very high up within the ideology of nutrition. So with that factored in mind, what would you say is different? I mean, why aren't all of them on the same page?
Well, I think first and foremost, we need to understand that diet and nutrition is highly individualized. What one person may do well on, another person may struggle to do well on. I think though there are some fundamentals though that we can all look at that are essentially universal when it comes to things that we should be eating, things that we shouldn't be eating. I think that there is a consensus on highly processed foods. Highly processed foods are poison. They are directly correlated to colon cancer, especially the significant rise in colon cancer amongst individuals under 50. And then other types of cancers as well. Alcohol is another one there's really nothing redeeming about alcohol. It's a poison. It's linked to probably a half a dozen different types of cancer. So, that's something to avoid. Highly, enriched grains or highly refined grains, is something that as well that we probably should stay away from. That's probably not going to do us any favors. As far as the other food groups, the basic ones such as carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, we need all of those, and there are people that argue that we don't. I believe from personal experience and watching others that have been successful with their nutrition, these are things that we need in varying degrees. And again, they're highly individualized.
With people eating differently on these different diets and the different effects of these diets, as you just mentioned, how diets are very specific to the individual. As you stated, there's certain things that you should stay away from no matter what. What if someone were to argue the fact with you that certain things that in general are considered bad, they may thrive on? Just to play devil's advocate.
And it reminds me when you hear those stories of people saying that they drive better when they're drunk. I think that there's lots of anecdotal stories out there of individuals on different types of diets, and they're thriving on these types of diets, whether it be a vegan or vegetarian, people basically on a keto type diet. You know, I think that much like training your body, you're going to have to experiment a bit with it. I don't think there's any one right diet for any one person. I think that the best approach when it comes to nutrition and diet is to try various things, try different nutritional profiles, and see what you operate best on. Again, with that being said, I think there are certain things that we can universally agree upon that ubiquitously are probably not good for you. So staying away from sugar, staying away from extremely refined grains, or highly enriched grains, staying away from highly processed foods, alcohol. These are the types of things that we want to stay away from. Conversely, eating plenty of vegetables, eating a lot of fruit. Salmon is a superfood. Eating lots of salmon, walnuts, blueberries. These types of foods that there's been studies on, and we know that they're good for us. So I think that if you can customize that type of diet based on your own research, based on your trying and in your own process of trying them and becoming familiar with them. I think that's probably the best approach.
So a term you're probably very familiar with is a term known as cognitive dissonance. And it's something that's very interesting within diet specifically, because within one's diet, there is this justification of maybe eating something or drinking something that's not great for someone, but they find a way to justify it as something that's benefiting them. So, for example, someone realizes that overconsumption of alcohol has all these damaging effects to your liver and different aspects, including weight gain and so forth. However, they will justify drinking it because there may be one tiny positive thing that you can get out of it to make it seem like it's okay to do, even though there's more harmful effects than positive. What's your stance on that?
First and foremost, I'm just going to say, and this is my own personal opinion, though I believe that there's probably medical data to back this up. There's nothing good about alcohol. There's not one redeemable thing, in my opinion, when it comes to alcohol. To be very clear, alcohol is a poison. And when you ingest it, you are essentially ingesting a poison. With that being said, I think many areas in life, there is this cognitive dissonance. But yeah, I would agree, particularly with diet. Many times we know what we should be doing, or we know what's probably best for us to eat, but we're not ingesting these nutrients that we need, or we're basically going for the easy processed meals, because we're on a time crunch, and justifying it, saying, I'll eat better tomorrow, or I'll get a couple of extra steps in, or I'll spend a little more time in the gym. I think if we're being truly honest with ourselves, and I think this is what this requires, is that level of authenticity, complete honesty with ourselves, we'll realize that there are areas maybe of our diet that we have dialed in, but there's other areas that are not dialed in. And I think the end goal, if you truly want to be successful with diet, is you have to dial in those areas that are left undone, those areas that perhaps we haven't addressed. And I think the best way to do that is to eliminate over time, not all at once, but to eliminate things that we know we shouldn't be eating or ingesting, and then adding things in that we know have certain health benefits. As I stated earlier, food can be medicine, and so if we're taking in certain nutrients and certain combinations of nutrients that are beneficial for us, then that's going to help with long-term success with our diet.
Something that is very, very common in society that has been growing in popularity is something everybody knows as Ozempic. It's something that a lot of people have been using as this cheat code in order to lose weight. In your opinion, what do you think are pros, cons, or are there really no benefits to taking something like that? Because in the short term, it may help with weight loss, but many ask, what about the long-term benefits and repercussions of taking anything that isn't natural?
I would say that these semi-glutide medications, or peptides, as they're also referred to as, they can be beneficial, I think, for individuals that are morbidly obese, that perhaps already have are pre-diabetic or have type 2 diabetes. If it's going to help them lose some weight and put them in a little bit of a healthier circumstance, I think that there is a certain benefit probably to these drugs. If you're using it as a way to cheat the system or a way to game it, which I know a lot of people do probably, I would caution that there's really no free lunch, in my opinion. There's always a trade-off. And, from my experience in talking with individuals that have taken some of these semi-glutides like Ozempic and such, there are trade-offs. There are negative things. Some of the negative things, of course, are digestive issues. People, having to throw up and perhaps having, dysentery and stomach cramping and other issues and such. And then, there is the question about long-term effects, and the verdict's not out completely on that. There are some studies, and there is a body of research on it, but not extensive. It's not like we have 40 or 50 years worth of research on these drugs. So I would caution people against them. I'd say if you're going to use it to kickstart, if you have a weight problem, you're using it to kickstart a program that you're going to exercise and try to eat right and everything as well, it could be a good thing, at least initially. Long term, though, I don't see that that's something that's going to help you in long-term success with nutrition and diet.
So, regarding weight loss itself, a lot of studies have shown that the only thing that really matters when it comes to sheer weight loss would be being in a calorie deficit for the human body. So obviously, in a calorie deficit, you're eating less, you're losing weight. Just because someone's losing weight in a deficit doesn't necessarily mean they're getting good nutrients, but would you say it's still good to do that even if you're not necessarily getting all the nutrients you need if you're losing weight, or would it be better to focus more on the nutrients and not as much about the weight loss itself?
Well, let me be clear. I think the very, very best scenario is that you're eating right. You're putting in the kinds of nutrients that your body needs. You're avoiding the poisons, the foods out there that are not any good for you. They're highly processed foods, the sugars and such. However, the body is a bit like a bank. Yes, if you put X amount of calories in and it's over your base metabolic rate, you're going to start adding fat. If you're eating less calories than you normally, or you're burning more than you're taking in, essentially, then you're going to lose weight. Of course, that doesn't entirely address, again, the nutrition factor here. So I think the nutrition factor is something that is extremely important, and it should be done it should be done in tandem with watching your calories and being careful what you're taking in.
And I think the most important question of all, especially because these are all questions that we are posing to you, what, in your opinion, based off your own life and your own day-to-day encounters, would you consider to be the best overall diet for sustainability for yourself, at least?
I think that there's been a number of studies on two particular diets that show a lot of promise, and individuals that adhere to these diets generally are more successful with their health and their overall nutrition. The first one would be the pescatarian diet. Pescatarian diet essentially you're eating plenty of vegetables, you're eating plenty of fruit, you're getting healthy fats in. You're not eating meat in terms of red meats and like chicken and things. You're focusing on fish, so your animal protein's coming from fish, and it's coming from eggs and such. So I think that, that's a great diet. There's been some research to indicate that that people do pretty well on that diet. The other one that's had quite a bit of research is the Mediterranean diet. And the Mediterranean diet's actually pretty close to the pescatarian diet. And so I think both those diets, there's research. There are people that are actively on these diets, and so they have the anecdotal, stories, about how successful that they've been on these diets, but also there is empirical research on it as well. So I think that both those diets, one of the things that they have in common is that you're not eating excessive amounts of dairy, you're not eating excessive amounts of red meat. You're focusing on healthy whole grains. You're focusing on healthy fats like olive oil, fish oils. Your animal protein is coming from fish primarily, or eggs. Salmon and egg yolks, or eggs in general, those are superfoods. They're incredibly healthy and nutritionally dense. And so I think that in terms of diets and stuff, that I would say almost universally, those two diets would be great for most people. Now, of course, the devil's in the details. There are going to be some people that may not do well with eggs, or they may be allergic to some things. Some people are allergic to nuts, so they can't have walnuts and such. So I think, again, this is where diets become individualized a bit. But if you try to adhere to those two types of eating regimens, you're probably going to have much more success and a lot more health benefits from it.
Something very popular in today's society is intermittent fasting. It is something that was very popular initially in a lot of Eastern cultures, but it is very popular now in Western culture. Some people say it has been their miracle to weight loss. Others say there are copious amounts of benefits. What is your overall viewpoint on intermittent fasting, and do you see it as something beneficial or disadvantageous to the human?
I think it can be very beneficial. Not necessarily in every circumstance. There are some people that may not benefit from it, but I believe there's a lot of people that can benefit from it. There are a number of studies to show that it can be effective. It can be an effective way to lose weight. We also know that calorie restriction, which essentially is what fasting is you're reducing calories. You're going into basically a calorie deficit or a caloric deficit. Also can help slow aging in mammals, at least anyway. So, these are interesting things. I'm a firm believer in, especially when it comes to the pillars of success, in experiencing some of these things firsthand. And I've tried and I've had success with intermittent fasting in the past. And so I think it can be a good thing. But again, I think, like many things within society, sometimes we get hung up on the ritual and maybe we're kind of following the crowd. What's the new thing? What's the new trend? So I think that if it's someone serious about intermittent fasting or even doing longer fasts, like some people will fast 48, 72 hours, make sure that you research it. Make sure you understand it. Don't just go into it. Make sure that you're well informed before you embark on it.
Something that is very common that a lot of people say in different foods, different medications, different drinks, something known as the placebo effect. And a lot of people claim that in many effects, even though certain diets have X, Y, and Z nutrition, a lot of it is a placebo effect, that by you knowing that it has this nutrient in it that correlates to this effect, they're going to automatically get that. Do you think they're actually getting much of a benefit from the diet itself through that, or do you think they're convincing themselves that they are through the placebo effect?
Well, I mean, the placebo effect's a very real thing. It's a very real phenomena, and we don't entirely understand it. We have ideas, how we think it may work, but there's no clear consensus on exactly how it works. I think that when it comes to diet or anything else in life, if we have a strong belief in whatever we're embarking upon, it is going to give us an advantage. It is definitely going to give us an edge. With that being said, I don't think a person could, go on a beer and steak diet, for example, and convince themselves that's going to be healthy and they're going to have all these health benefits, these net positive health benefits from going on a diet like that. So I think that it's definitely something that you can incorporate with your nutrition plan, especially if you're eating correctly and if you're trying to, take in, proper nutrition.
Something that is very interesting that stands out a lot is you will see individuals who, let's say they smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day their whole life, or in terms of diet, since that is our topic, they processed food their entire life and they still lived until their 90s or maybe even their early 100s. Can you kind of dive into your viewpoint on that and how you see that?
Well, I mean, what's funny is I have, he's passed away now, but I have a grandfather that made it to 97, and he didn't necessarily, take super good care of himself. He drank for years, he smoked, he ate kind of what he wanted. You can't underestimate the genetic factor into this, this whole scenario. So there is a very real genetic factor. Here's the problem: people really don't know, whether they won the genetic lottery in that way or not. And so because of that, anytime you basically decide to do things that are unhealthy or to kind of not take care of yourself, as far as your nutrition goes, you are taking a chance. Now, granted, there are, because of genetics, some people can handle these things seemingly unfazed. And I think that, hey, I wish we all could be so lucky. Most of us, though, will feel the effects of a poor diet or poor nutrition. So I think it's absolutely important to be aware that a lot of it, from an environmental standpoint, was within our control. We can't control genetics, whether they be favorable or not favorable. But I think at the end of the day, if we're trying to, take care of ourselves and get proper nutrition and take that very seriously, it's gonna give us a positive net effect from that.
It has been a great experience hearing your thoughts on all these different things within diet. And before we wrap things up, I just wanted to go ahead and hear a quick summary from you. For someone who's just getting involved within the road to success and becoming the best version of themselves, what kind of advice would you give them in terms of diet and how it can help them on their journey to that success?
My advice would be start today. And you don't have to do all of it at once. You can make little incremental changes each day or each week. I would, first do an assessment. Look at the foods that are in your diet right now that aren't great for you, that aren't helping you, and then identify the foods that are good for you, and start to incorporate those foods and start to eliminate the foods that aren't good for you. Again, remembering food can either be poison or it can be medicine. Give yourself the grace, though. Don't beat yourself up if you have a day where you fall off the wagon. But then definitely, I think, have a plan and start to really focus on doing a full lifestyle change. Again, as I stated before, I think if you truly want to set the goalpost and really be moving towards a overall successful lifestyle, nutrition is going to be at the cornerstone of that lifestyle.
Thank you so much for your time. And as always, thank you everybody who is watching, and we will see you on the next segment of the Pillars to Success. Thank you, Dr. Paul White, and everybody have a great day.
Thank you. My pleasure.